She wasn't supposed to know about the cabin. No one was. It sat at the edge of a forgotten lake in northern Minnesota. No GPS signal, no neighbors, no paved roads. Just brittle trees, a sagging dock, and a one-room shack I inherited from an uncle who died alone with no obituary. The kind of place you go when you need to disappear without leaving a story behind. The lock was rusted shut when I first got there. I didn't even bother fixing it. No one knew I was there. That was the point. And then last night she knocked. Not pounded. Not shouted. Just knocked. 3 soft taps, like she was asking if I still existed. I didn't open the door. I didn't move. I just stood there in the dark with a frying pan still warm in my hand, my back to the wall, heart doing things I haven't felt since the night I left. Her voice came next, calmer than I expected, but cracked around the edges like a dropped plate someone tried to glue back together. Declan, I know you're in there. I hadn't heard her say my name in nearly a year, and hearing it now, out here, was like seeing a ghost crawl out of a photo you burned. The wind howled behind her. The rain started coming in sideways, tapping the tin roof like fingertips drumming. I could barely make out her silhouette through the stained window. Same coat, same posture, same girl who shattered me with her silence, and then dared to ask why I was being so dramatic. She didn't leave. She sat down on the porch like it belonged to her, crossed her legs, lit a cigarette she never used to smoke, and waited. I didn't open the door. Not that night. But the memories did. And they came hard. I thought I was done bleeding over her. I thought I buried it all the night I read that message on her phone, the one that said, "I miss you already." He has no clue. But if she's here now, that means something's wrong. Or worse, it means nothing's changed. And I can't tell which one would hurt more. She sat on that porch for over an hour. In silence. No crying. No yelling. Just her breath in the cold and the soft hiss of rain around her like the world was whispering secrets I didn't want to hear. I watched her through the warped glass, barely breathing, waiting for her to leave. But she didn't. She just sat there with that cigarette burning down to the filter, her shoulders hunched, eyes locked on the door like she was trying to will it open with guilt alone. When she finally stood up, I felt something in me flinch, like a reflex I thought I'd killed. She walked to the window, my window, and placed something against the glass. I couldn't make it out clearly, but it looked like a photo. Then she turned around and disappeared into the woods without saying another word. I didn't move for 10 minutes after she left. My legs didn't trust me. My heart didn't either. When I finally opened the door, the rain had already smudged the photo, but not enough to erase what it was. It was me. And her. At the cabin. Smiling. From a trip we took 6 years ago. One I forgot existed. She was wearing my old flannel, the one she used to call her soft armor. I remember taking that photo. I just never imagined she kept it. But that wasn't what knocked the wind out of me. Taped to the back was a note in shaky handwriting. "You don't know what really happened. Please let me explain." Explain? After everything? After the months of silence? After the messages I found that weren't meant for me? And the way she looked at me like I was a burden she couldn't shake? It had taken me everything to disappear. To cut her out. To cut out the version of me that kept forgiving. And now she wanted to explain? I should have burned the photo, tossed it into the stove, and gone back to pretending the world ended the day I left. But I didn't. Instead, I lay awake that night on the old cot by the window, holding the photo in my hand like it was evidence from a crime I hadn't fully solved. I thought about the message I saw on her phone that night. I thought about the way she said his name in her sleep, thinking I wouldn't hear. I thought about the time I came home and found her wedding ring sitting on the bathroom counter like it was just another accessory she'd grown tired of wearing. I thought about how she cried when I walked out, and how I didn't. And then, just before dawn, I heard it again. 3 knocks. She was back. But this time, she wasn't alone. I didn't open the door right away. I didn't even move. I just listened. 3 knocks again, firm this time. Not like before. Not like her. These weren't knocks that asked for permission. These were knocks that expected something, that demanded something. And then a voice followed. Not hers. "Declan, I know you're in there. We just want to talk." I stepped away from the window. My hands had already started sweating, even though the air inside the cabin was cold enough to see my breath. I backed into the shadows, heart pounding like I was hiding from a predator, not a person. Then I heard her voice, muffled, shaky, trying too hard to sound calm. "Please. He's not here to hurt you." I looked through the curtain. There she was again, but standing beside her was a man I'd never seen before. Tall, clean-cut, dressed like someone who wasn't used to the woods. He had one hand in his coat pocket, the other holding an umbrella over both of them. Her hair was soaked despite it. He leaned in to whisper something, and she nodded like a kid getting coached. I didn't wait for them to knock again. I moved to the back of the cabin, slipped on my boots, and quietly opened the rear door. The rain had slowed, but the trees still dripped heavy drops that slapped against the leaves like footsteps. I crept through the brush until I was around the side of the cabin, crouched low. I watched them. The man was pacing now, clearly agitated. Lissa was rubbing her arms, avoiding eye contact. She looked smaller than I remembered. Fragile. But that meant nothing. I'd seen her cry before and lie through the tears like a professional. Then the man did something that made my stomach flip. He pulled out his phone. I could barely hear him, but I caught pieces. He's here. I know he is. Yeah, I'll handle it. Then, like something out of a movie, he shouted toward the trees. Declan, you're not in trouble. You just need to hear the truth. How did he know my name? Who was he? I must have shifted too fast, because a branch snapped beneath my foot. The man spun, alert. Lissa turned too, her face pale. Her eyes scanned the trees like she was afraid of what she'd find. Or maybe afraid of what she'd lose if she did. I can explain everything, she called out. Please, just let us in. It's not what you think. But they always say that, don't they? It's never what you think, until it is. The man took a few cautious steps into the woods, toward my direction. I held my breath, crouched low behind a fallen log. My pulse was so loud I couldn't hear the rain anymore. I'm Nate, he said. I know what Lissa did. I'm not here to defend her. That stopped me cold. Nate? The name from the message. The one I saw on her phone the night I left. The man who ruined everything. He was here, at my cabin, with her, looking for me. And he didn't look smug. He looked desperate, like he needed something from me. But I couldn't imagine what. And that terrified me more than anything else. I don't remember standing up. My legs moved before my mind gave them permission. Maybe it was the way Nate said my name like he'd known me for years. Maybe it was how Lissa looked like she was seconds from breaking apart. Or maybe, just maybe, I was tired of hiding in a cabin like a ghost waiting to forget he ever existed. I stepped out from behind the trees, mud clinging to my boots, rain dripping off my hood. The look on her face when she saw me was something I'll never forget. It wasn't guilt. It wasn't shame. It was relief. Like she'd found something she thought was lost forever. Declan, she breathed, her voice catching. Nate's expression shifted fast. Not arrogance. Not even tension. Just this raw, open mixture of worry and urgency. Hey, I'm not here to cause problems, man. I didn't know you existed until 4 months ago. I blinked. What? Lissa looked down, her hands twisted together like she was trying to wring water from her skin. She wouldn't meet my eyes. I didn't say anything. I just stared at them, waiting for one of them to stop dancing around the bomb they were about to drop. I was with her, Nate said carefully, but I didn't know she was married. She told me you were divorced, that you were out of the picture. Still nothing from her, just trembling fingers and silence. I broke it off, he said quickly, the moment I found out. I swear. I found your name on something in her glove box, and it didn't add up. So I started digging. He pulled out his phone and opened a folder. Photos, screenshots, maps. He was tracking me. I know this is insane, he said. But when I realized she lied to both of us, I needed answers too. You don't owe me anything. I just thought you deserved to hear it all. Lissa finally looked up then. Her eyes were rimmed red, but dry. I was going to tell you the truth, she whispered. I didn't know how. I laughed. Bitter, sharp, too loud for the woods. You didn't know how? I said, my voice shaking. You didn't know how to not cheat either, huh? That part wasn't confusing? I didn't cheat, she shot back, too fast, too forceful. Not how you think. Oh, please, I snapped. You think I ran away because you forgot our anniversary? You were in love with him. She didn't deny it. She didn't have to. Instead, Nate stepped forward, his hands up like he was calming a wild animal. You need to hear what she's been hiding. It's bigger than you think. And then he said something I didn't see coming. She wasn't just lying to you. She was lying to me too. And I think someone else was involved. That made me pause. What does that even mean? I asked slowly. I think someone made sure you'd see those messages, he said. I think someone wanted you to leave. And it wasn't her. Now Lissa's eyes widened. Wait, what are you talking about? You think she cheated? He said to me. She thinks she messed everything up. But the truth? I don't think she ever sent those messages. I felt the world tilt just slightly under my feet. He was serious. And scared. Someone else? Setting me up? Why? I was just a nobody. A background character in other people's lives. So why did it feel like I was the target of a story I didn't even know I was in? I didn't invite them inside. Not because I was angry, though I was. Not because I didn't want to hear more, though I didn't. It was because I didn't trust what the truth might actually look like. I had spent almost a year believing I understood the ending to our story. A clean, sharp betrayal, followed by my vanishing act. That was easier. Simpler. But now they were rewriting it in real time, and I felt like a man waking up in someone else's dream. We sat under the small overhang outside the cabin, wrapped in damp flannel and tension. I kept my distance. Lissa kept stealing glances like she was searching for the man I used to be. But that man was gone. Maybe she killed him. Or maybe I buried him willingly. I wasn't even sure anymore. Nate pulled out his phone and opened a folder labeled Lissa, deleted. That alone made my stomach churn. These are screenshots I pulled from an old backup, he said. She had messages on her phone that were deleted weeks before you left. I found traces of them in my synced cloud storage. Some of them were between her and me. Some were from an unknown number. He passed me the phone. My hands were shaking as I scrolled. The first messages were between him and Lissa. Harmless at first. Flirty. But nothing crossing the line. Then the tone changed. Abruptly. A message from her. He's suffocating me. I feel like I'm in prison. I glanced at her. She shook her head immediately. I never wrote that, she whispered. I never said that about you. There were more. I'll tell him I'm at Pilates. Can you book the room again? And he's too weak to fight. He'll just leave. Each one made my pulse pound louder. Those are the messages I saw. I muttered, gripping the phone tighter. That's why I left. That's what broke me. Nate nodded. Same here. Those were the messages that made me believe she was manipulating both of us. Then he opened one more screenshot. A text from an unknown number. Unknown. Just make sure he sees them. He won't stay. The timestamp was a day before I left. My mouth went dry. Lissa leaned forward, her voice barely a breath. I never had that number in my phone. I swear. I didn't say anything. I didn't know what to say. The ground I thought was solid had completely collapsed beneath me. If these were real, if they weren't hers, then someone planted them. Someone wanted me gone. Do you still have the number? I asked Nate, my voice low. He nodded and opened the contact info. No name. Just a number. I copied it down, my brain already scrambling through every possible suspect. Her friends? Mine? Her work? My brother? I stopped cold. Something twisted in my gut. You okay? Lissa asked, her eyes full of a fear I hadn't seen in years. I gave him my spare key, I whispered. Months before everything. He was helping with the mortgage when I was out of work. He was in the house more than I was. Her face went pale. Are you saying? I nodded slowly, the pieces falling into place like dominoes. My brother, I said. He was around. He had access to our Wi-Fi, our devices, her phone. I stood up, my heartbeat thundering in my ears. He always said I wasn't strong enough for you. Lissa covered her mouth with her hands, and Nate just sat there, stunned silent. Somewhere deep inside me, something old and cold began to crack open. Because if that was true, then the story I thought I'd been living, the story of betrayal and humiliation and escape, was a lie. And the truth? The truth might be even worse. When I think back now, I wonder if I always knew. Maybe I just didn't want to believe it. Maybe it was easier to let myself be broken by a stranger than admit my own blood had stuck the knife in. But once the possibility took root in my mind, it grew fast, ugly, and undeniable. The signs had been there. Not obvious, but loud in hindsight. Bryce had always been the louder one, the charming one, the fixer. He was the kind of guy who could talk his way out of a felony and into your living room in the same breath. He helped me during the worst months of my unemployment, covered the gas bill once without asking, even gave me a job at his auto shop for a few weeks. Everyone told me I was lucky to have a brother like that. They didn't see how he looked at Lissa when he thought I wasn't watching. I remember the comment now, the one that didn't register until much later. We were in the kitchen after a barbecue at our place. I'd gone inside to grab more ice, and he followed. Lissa was in the backyard, laughing with some friends. Bryce leaned against the counter, chewing on a toothpick, and said, "You know, if you screw this up, Someone else is going to fix it for you. I laughed then, thought he was just being his usual smug self. But it was the way he said it. Like he already knew I'd screw up. Like he was waiting for it. And now, that old unease was clawing its way to the surface. Where is he now? Nate asked, rising to his feet beside me. I don't know, I replied. Last I heard, he moved in with some girl across town. I cut contact after I left. Lissa stood up slowly, her face pale and unreadable. I always thought he was just overprotective. He used to show up at the house when you weren't there. Said he was checking in on me. But he started asking strange questions. About our fights. If I was happy. Nate raised an eyebrow. Did he ever try anything? No, she said quickly. Not directly. But I caught him once staring at my phone while it was charging. He said he thought it buzzed. A silence fell over us, thick and unbearable. Let me see your phone, I said. She hesitated for a second, then handed it over. I went into the settings and looked for previously connected Wi-Fi networks. My heart dropped when I saw the cabin's router name listed. You've been here before? I asked sharply. She looked shocked. No, I swear to you, I never. I turned the screen toward her. Then how is your phone connected to my cabin's network? Nate stepped closer, his expression darkening. Wait, could it be cloned? I didn't answer. I was too busy opening the app permissions, checking for remote access tools. And then I saw it, a hidden app, masked to look like a system file. One I didn't install. Someone had access to her phone, probably for a while. And if Bryce had her data, he could have copied mine. He had enough to fabricate entire conversations. Enough to make it look like Lissa was cheating, like Nate was complicit, like I was disposable. Why would he do all this? She whispered. Because he wanted to erase me. I didn't say it aloud, but the thought echoed louder than thunder. And then, just when I thought my blood couldn't run any colder, I got a notification on my own phone, the one I hadn't used since disappearing. It was a voicemail, from an unknown number. No words, just the sound of someone breathing. And then a voice I hadn't heard in nearly a year. You can run, December, but you'll never matter more than me. The voicemail ended with a click, but the sound echoed in my ears like a gunshot. I played it again. Not because I needed to, but because part of me still didn't believe it was real. I hadn't heard Bryce's voice in almost 11 months. And hearing it now, dark, slow, deliberate, felt like someone had unearthed a corpse I buried and left a chair for it at my table. Nate stepped beside me and listened without a word. Lissa's hand trembled against her coat. No one moved for a long while. The rain had slowed to a mist, and the fog that hovered over the lake began to creep toward the cabin like it, too, wanted to listen. I think he knows you're here, Nate finally said, low and certain. No, I muttered. He doesn't think he knows. He always does. I started pacing, my boots scraping the wooden planks. All those months I'd stayed hidden, off-grid, living like a ghost, and somehow he still found a way to pull the strings. He didn't need to follow me. He'd already written the ending he wanted. The rest of us were just actors stumbling around the stage, reading from a script he'd forged line by line. I need to go back, I said. Back where? Lissa asked. To where this all started, I answered, already heading inside to grab my bag. The house, the garage, his shop. There has to be something I missed. Something that proves what he did. Nate grabbed my shoulder. Declan, if he really orchestrated all this, and I think he did, he's not going to make it easy for you. Or safe. I turned to him. You think I don't know that? You think I haven't lived inside the wreckage of it every day since I left? He didn't just ruin my marriage. He erased me. He made me doubt everything. Every word Lissa ever said. Every second I trusted her. Every memory I thought was real. I don't care how dangerous it is. I need the truth. Lissa looked like she wanted to speak, but didn't. She just lowered her head, guilt heavy in her silence. We left within the hour. 3 of us. 1 car. Driving south through pine forests and decaying farmland, headed back to the place I once called home. A place I swore I'd never see again. The silence was unbearable. Nate offered to drive, and I let him. Lissa sat in the back, arms crossed, chewing the inside of her cheek. I knew she wanted to talk, to explain, to salvage something. But I didn't have anything left to give her yet. Not until I saw proof that this wasn't all some elaborate attempt to dodge blame. We pulled into the outskirts of town just after midnight. The air smelled like wet asphalt and nostalgia gone sour. Everything looked smaller than I remembered, duller. like it had aged in my absence. Or maybe it was me who had aged. I didn't feel like the man who left. I didn't even know who that man was anymore. The garage where Bryce worked was locked up, but I knew the back door trick. We slipped inside quietly, the space filled with half-disassembled engines, cracked floor tiles, and the scent of oil and dust. His office was at the end of the hall. A metal desk, an old PC, filing cabinets with broken handles. We didn't expect to find much. But then Nate found a burner phone in the bottom drawer, taped to the underside with duct tape. Still charged, still active. And when we unlocked it with the passcode Lissa guessed on the third try, our old anniversary, what we found stopped us cold. There were dozens of messages. Drafts never sent. Fake conversations written out in full. Some between her and Nate. Some between her and strangers. And all of them were time-stamped days before I ever saw the originals. Bryce had scripted the entire affair. Every word. Every fake fight. Every lie. He was rehearsing betrayal like it was theater. And then, at the very bottom of the message list, we found a file. A voice memo. Nate pressed play. And it was him. Bryce. Talking to himself. Or maybe to us. She's never going to love him. Not really. He's weak. I had to do this. She needs someone who can protect her. She needs someone real. Then a pause. A sigh. They'll both thank me one day. The recording ended. No one spoke. We had everything now. Proof. Motive. Evidence of manipulation. The whole twisted scheme laid out in his own words. And yet somehow, the worst part was still ahead. Because as we turned to leave, headlights lit up the garage windows. And a voice outside shouted, "Hey, little brother. You came back." For a few seconds, no one moved. The headlights outside the garage didn't waver, didn't flicker. They just sat there, two eyes in the dark, unblinking, watching us. Bryce's voice echoed in my mind again. You came back. It was more than a greeting. It was a challenge. A dare. Nate moved first, slipping the burner phone into his coat. He looked at me, eyes sharp. We have enough to bury him. Legally. Don't do anything stupid. I nodded, though every muscle in my body wanted to do something very stupid. We stepped out into the night together. Lissa followed behind us, her breath shaky, her fists clenched like she was walking toward a firing squad. Bryce was leaning against his truck, hands in his jacket pockets, casual as ever. Same smirk. Same condescending tilt to his head. Look at this, he said, eyes flicking between the three of us. The broken husband, the side piece, and the liar. What a trio. I know what you did, I said, keeping my voice level. He laughed. Yeah? And what's that exactly? We found the burner. The fake messages. The voice memo. I took a step forward. You framed her. You destroyed my marriage because you couldn't stand being second to anyone, even your own brother. For a moment, the mask slipped. Just slightly. His jaw clenched. His hands twitched. Then he smiled again. You were never going to keep her, December. You don't keep women like that. You borrow them until they realize they deserve better. I guess you thought that better was you, Nate cut in. But the truth is, no one deserves you. Bryce's smile faded. We're done here, I said. You're done. I pulled out my phone. This is already backed up. Cloud, email, hard drive. We'll press charges. You'll lose your license, your shop, everything. For the first time, Bryce looked nervous. But I didn't wait to see how deep that fear would go. I turned my back to him and walked toward the car, Lissa close behind me, Nate covering our backs. He didn't follow. He didn't shout. He didn't fight. He lost. And he knew it. The investigation took weeks, but the case was airtight. Bryce's messages, the memo, even traces of GPS spoofing software on Lissa's old phone, all of it stacked into a mountain he couldn't climb. He tried to deny it, then tried to play the victim. But in the end, the court saw through it. He was charged with cyber fraud, defamation, and unlawful surveillance. He took a plea deal. 18 months in federal prison. It wasn't justice in full, but it was enough. As for me and Lissa, things weren't simple. Healing wasn't instant. We spent hours in couples therapy. Sometimes it was brutal, reopening wounds we barely knew how to talk about. I kept asking the same question. Why didn't you tell me something felt wrong? And she kept answering honestly. Because I didn't want to believe someone that close to us could hate you that much. But we kept showing up, week after week, until the silence between us was replaced by truth. Not the sugar-coated kind, the real kind. She told me she never stopped loving me. And one day, I believed her. It's been 11 months since that night at the cabin. We live in a small place now. Nothing fancy, but it's quiet, peaceful. Ours. Sometimes Lissa brings me coffee in the morning and smiles that same old smile, the one I thought I'd lost forever. And sometimes I catch her staring at me like she still can't believe I came back. But the truth is, I didn't come back for revenge. I came back to find out who I was. And somewhere between the ashes and the wreckage, I found something better than closure. I found us again. And this time, I'm not letting go.